Hi guys, welcome to the Swingin' Sunday Scan, my very first and the first of 2022. We'll be looking at swing trade ideas from both American and Canadian markets. Let's take a look at the market first. It's pretty much been the same story since the decline of early 2020. Basically, we've seen nothing but upside, with a few short dips here and there, but holding a pretty solid trend. You look at the monthly, the SPY is getting pretty top heavy, but will it ever come back to the moving averages? There's really only two things that can happen with a price correction. We either see a correction through price, which would mean a decline in this situation, or a correction through time, which means we could just chop around sideways until we return back to the moving averages. Put simply, guys, I would think the market's going to continue doing what it's going to do unless it starts putting in some lower lows and some lower highs. So far, it has not done that significantly on any time frame. We've got pretty close a few times on the daily, but every time it looks like it's about to drop off the cliff, it just gets bought up and rallies. Looking at the daily, we are seeing some resistance and some rejection at the highs. My expectation on the SPY is we're looking lower for at least a few days. That's my bias on the market. The QQQ, similar picture. It looks like we're putting in a rejection around the 400 area. I'm looking for a pullback on the QQQ as well, and at least in the short term. Guys, this is just my bias. If you've been watching the market for the last few months, having a short bias on the market, you tend to get disappointed very often. So this short bias is really dependent on how the market reacts in the next few days. It's a brand new year, so a lot can happen. But at least for now, I'm looking short on the overall market. I think the important thing to mention here, guys, is short term. Looking ahead, I'm looking for signs of reversal to the upside. When that happens, I'm going to be looking at putting on longs to join trend on the market. But for now, in this area, I don't think I want to go long at all, unless it's really good. Let's get into the ideas. First idea, ENPH. If you look at the weekly chart at the bottom left-hand corner, ENPH is putting in pivots in the area around the red line, which is a 50-period moving average. And I really like the weekly pullback into that area. I really love how every time it gets to that red line, which is a 50-period moving average, it basically has rallied for the next few weeks. We've currently entered that area, and I would love to go long in this stock. I know I just said I don't want to go long on any stocks. So my plan with this is basically to watch for a reversal on the market. And if the market is looking to go long, I would love to go long on this stock. It is very tempting to go long now, but I don't want to go against my original plan. I just drew in another box. I do love how this stock is retracing to a potential demand zone, which was prior resistance. What was resistance, when broken, becomes support. So I love everything about this area. I also love how the retrace to this area was so smooth on the weekly. You can see very little overlap on the bars. Typically, when I'm trading or a retrace like that, when it's very smooth like that, the bounce tends to be pretty decent. Again, this is just a watch idea for now, and hopefully the markets will give us something that allows us to confidently get into this stock long. If this stock continues lower below the 175 area, I'll likely stop watching this stock. If it can't hold the 175 area, I would consider that very weak and probably would want to stay away. The nice part about waiting is this gives us time to see if the stock can prove itself to hold that area. Entry would be around 192, risk would be around 174.50, target in the 245s. That's my take on ENPH. My next idea, BSIG. I'm looking at this one short. Reason being, if we look at the weekly chart on the bottom left-hand side, it has a similar picture to some of the other charts we're looking at where it was bouncing around that blue line, putting in higher lows and rallying. However, it has since broken that line. Is the stock consolidated between the 30 and 31 area and dropped really significantly on high volume. It rallied back up to that 30-31 area, but then dropped really hard again for the next few days. Again, all on high volume. It's getting hung up currently on that 200 period moving average, which is the yellow line on the daily chart on the right. My idea with this is there could be potential follow through momentum through that 200 day, looking at sort of like a breakdown pattern below the 2450 area. The volume certainly suggests that there's high activity on this name. Any trading below that 2450 area I would consider very weak and a possible continuation in the momentum. When you pair this with the market looking potentially top heavy and looking lower, those two combined could make for a decent trade, but we'll see. I just drew in a supply zone. This is something else that makes this trade pretty good, in my opinion. It's broke through a demand zone and is currently testing it as a resistance area. If it can stay below this area, I would consider that pretty weak since the buyers cannot get through the supply in this area. Since the volume is increased and the bars are wide range, we could see potential momentum downward, but trading is not about knowing what's going to happen next. It's about following a plan and using technical analysis to get an edge over the market. I'll be putting my orders in for this trade, and hopefully we'll see a fill sometime this week. My next idea, FICO, I'm looking at it short. This is not a trade I'm entering, but I am watching for certain things to happen in the next few days. We're currently in an area of a 40 to 60% retracement from a decline from the 560 area down near that 340 area. It's currently bouncing nice and smooth on that weekly chart in the bottom left-hand corner towards that red line, which is a 50 period moving average. On the daily, you can see it's getting close to that 200 period moving average. That 200 period moving average on the daily, I find a very important, significant level. So all in all, if we can get this to bounce towards those moving averages and stall out, I'd be looking for a short. I put in my ideal levels, but this is really based on this stock doing what I hope it's going to do. So really, I'm just going to watch for now. To me, a great trade would be going short around the 440 area with a risk about 460, 461, looking for a decline down to the 360 area. Something to keep in mind, guys, is earnings. I have a very strict rule in my plan where I will not hold a stock through earnings. It is too risky. It's basically gambling. Stocks will gap up on bad news and stocks will gap down on good news and vice versa. You really never know what's going to happen through earnings. It's just a bad idea. TradingView does say that earnings could be around January 27th. However, I have found that TradingView does not give 100% accuracy on their earnings date. So ideally, since this is a longer time frame trade, since I'm entering it on the weekly chart, ideally I'd like to enter this after earnings has been announced. Something else I really like about this stock, I just drew a horizontal line on the 440 area. If you look at the weekly chart, we've had a rejection at the 440 area as a resistance in February of 2020. We've had a long consolidation underneath the 440 area as resistance from June 2020 until November 2020 with a breakout. It then came back and retested in January 2021, held that area and rallied. It retraced and retested the 440 area of August of 2021 with a slight bounce and then a failure directly through that 440 area. Needless to say, this 440 area is very significant. If we get a rejection at the 440 area after earnings and I get what I want with this stock, I'll very likely be short this stock. The target will likely take 2 to 3 weeks minimum to hit, more likely longer. So this one might require some patience. Anyways, guys, those were my top 3 favorite ideas. I have a couple more ideas that I'll quickly run through. These ones I will be watching for a potential entry depending on what the market and the stocks do in the next few days. RBA, I'm looking long around 81 with risk around 77. Target around the 94 area. Again, going long currently in this market, I'm shying away from depending on what happens in the next couple days. ALIT looks good short under 10.75 with risk around $11. Target 9.87. This is a new issue, so I don't like generally trading these too often, but the pattern here looks pretty decent and I'll be watching this one as well. MRUS short around 31.21 with risk around that $33 area with target around $25. This one's pretty aggressive, going for kind of a double top. You could look at this as a potential breakout. However, it is pretty extended into that $33 area, so I wouldn't be playing this long myself. This one I am considering entering in short. However, it is pretty aggressive, so I'm not quite sure yet. KSS short under 48.91 with risk around 51.44, target around the $38 area. This one nearly didn't make the list. However, if this one can get down below that $44 area, this one could really take a tumble off the cliff with decent amount of range. What I liked most about this one was the monthly chart. It's putting in a pretty significant lower high with lots of room down to the $20 area. The daily chart looks pretty choppy and gappy. I don't like seeing that for a swing trade. However, I could consider taking this one, but for me, this would be very aggressive. I'm on the fence. HALO. I'm watching this one potentially short under 39.55 with risk around 41.33. Target 39.16. This one seems to be holding a pretty steady downtrend. We're bouncing right into that 200 period moving average. Putting in some narrow bars with topping tails looks good. My concerns here are the strength of that bounce and also the full 100% retracement to that pivot in November around that 41.33 area. However, that could play nicely into our hands since that could act as a supply resistance zone, setting this back down. That's the reason why my target is not around that 32 area. My expectation would be for this stock to drop no more than 50 to 60% from that pivot. BHC, similar picture in a pretty solid downtrend. Entry, I'd be looking around 27.40 with risk 28.41, target around 24.32. Last but not least, a notable mention, Tesla, TSLA. Likely not going to take this trade short. I'm not brave enough to short Tesla at the moment. However, this pattern to me looks pretty decent. It basically meets all my criteria for a short. However, Tesla as a stock and the way it trades is not really a stock that I like to swing trade. It very often gaps. The range of the bars are very wide. The price of the stock eats up quite a bit of buying power. But to me, with the market looking lower, I thought it'd be worth mentioning. Guys, if you like this content, please give us a thumbs up. If you click the subscribe button with the alerts, you'll get alerted anytime I put out new videos. My plan is to put out one a week every Sunday for a scan for the week ahead. Throw some comments down below. Let me know if you like these ideas. Tell me what you don't like. If you have any ideas out there you want to share, please send them my way and maybe we can review them on the next Swingin' Sunday Scan. Thanks, guys. Trade safe, be well, and we'll see you on the next one.